The church was filled with whispers, each one a tiny dagger piercing Sarah's heart. He was gone. Lucas, the man she loved, the man who was supposed to be waiting for her at the end of this aisle, had vanished. Her beautiful white dress, a second-hand treasure she'd saved months for, now felt like a costume for a fool. The guests, a mix of her humble family and his wealthy relatives, stared with a blend of pity and scorn. He probably realized he was marrying into poverty, someone muttered, loud enough for her to hear. Humiliation washed over her, hot and suffocating. She turned and fled the church, the sound of her own sobs echoing in her ears. Days blurred into a haze of sorrow. Sarah couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. The small apartment they were meant to share felt cavernous and cold. Her world had crumbled, and the man who held it together had been the one to smash it. His family had called, of course, but not with apologies. They offered a paltry sum of money, a compensation for her trouble, as if her broken heart had a price tag. Their words were laced with condescension, confirming her deepest fears. To them, she was never good enough, just a poor girl who had dared to dream above her station. She refused their money, her pride the only thing she had left. One rainy afternoon, a week after the wedding that never was, a letter arrived. It was addressed to her in Lucas's familiar, elegant handwriting. Her hands trembled as she tore it open, a storm of anger and grief brewing inside her. Was this his final insult? An explanation full of excuses. She started to read, her eyes scanning the words, braced for more pain. My dearest Sarah, it began. If you are reading this, it means I have failed. Not in my love for you, never. That but in my fight to stay with you. Please, before you hate me, let me explain. The letter went on to unravel a story so devastating it stole her breath. Lucas had been diagnosed with a rare, aggressive genetic disease just a few months prior. The doctors had given him a grim prognosis, a rapid decline and a life far shorter than he had ever imagined. He wrote about the secret hospital visits, the painful treatments he endured alone, all while pretending to plan their future. He didn't want their life together to be defined by his illness. He couldn't bear the thought of her becoming his caretaker, of watching the man she loved fade away. I saw our future. Sarah, he wrote, I saw you, radiant and full of life, and I couldn't chain you to a man with no future to give. Leaving you at the altar was the most selfish, and yet the most selfless, act of my life. I had to break your heart to save your life from being broken by my death. My family knew. They were sworn to secrecy. The money they offered, that was my life insurance policy. It's all I have to give you. A small token to help you build the beautiful life you deserve. A life I can't be part of. Tears streamed down Sarah's face, mixing with the raindrops on the window pane. It wasn't hatred she felt, but a profound, gut-wrenching sorrow. He hadn't abandoned her out of cruelty. He had sacrificed his own happiness to protect hers. His family's coldness wasn't scorned, but a clumsy, misguided attempt to push her away, to honor his final wish. He loved her so much that he chose to be the villain in her story, just so she could have a chance at a happy ending without him. She clutched the letter to her chest, the thin paper a final, fragile connection to him. She raced to the hospital he'd mentioned, her heart pounding with a desperate hope. But she was too late. A kind nurse informed her that Lucas had passed away 2 days earlier, peacefully, with a small, worn photo of her by his side. Returning to her empty apartment, Sarah found a small, locked box he had mentioned in the letter. Inside was a lifetime of memories. Ticket stubs from their first date, dried flowers from their first anniversary, and a photo album filled with pictures of them, smiling and full of hope. Beneath it all was a savings book with a substantial sum as life savings, his life insurance, everything he had. It wasn't charity. It was his final act of love. Months turned into a year. The grief was a constant companion, but it no longer consumed her. Fueled by Lucas's sacrifice, Sarah used the money not just to survive, but to thrive. She went back to school, finished her degree, and started a small nonprofit organization helping low-income families, just like her own. She named it the Lucas Foundation. His love hadn't been a chain. It had become her wings. He had broken her heart to set her free, and in doing so, he had given her a purpose greater than she had ever imagined. His memory wasn't a story of abandonment. but a timeless testament to a love so powerful it transcended even death itself. She would live a life worthy of his sacrifice, a life full of the light he had so desperately wanted for her.